Hey, YouTubers, Tazman here, bringing you another episode of. I'm gonna have to call this one a utility for virtual tabletops. And the reason I say that is because this isn't. It's actually created by someone that's on the Fantasy Grounds forum. However, you can use this for any VTT without issue. And what this is called is the Map Align, which is a utility. And if you want to get it, first thing you want to do is just go to Google or your favorite browser and type map, ALIGN, and you can type utility or tool. We'll just leave utility. And it will be this one in Fantasy Grounds called the Map Align utility to scale and align maps to grid. So what this actually does is exactly what it says. So you do need to, in order to download from Fantasy Grounds forums, you have to have an account. So make sure you have that. But if you scroll down here, you'll see there are two of them, MapAlign 2014-0523 and MapAlign LLA Aware. You can see the LLA is large address aware. To be honest, I don't know other than the description here as to an actual difference between the two. And you can see this says allows larger maps to be loaded. I don't know what that map cutoff is, but all you have to do is once you're here is you download the zip file, extract it wherever you want it. It's just a single little file inside there. In this case, it was called Map Align, and install it. Then you go ahead and launch it, and you'll be greeted with something like this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go, if you have a map or whatever, make sure you know where a map is. And I found a map. That's the wrong one. I actually found a map here just on Google image search, and it's called the Dwarven Ruins plus Roll20 tutorial. But anyway, I found this, and so if we click on that, you'll see that this is a map. Now I've actually tested this one because some maps you download will not have any kind of issue at all. Usually the larger the map, you might run into some issues. However, if you do run into issues with smaller maps, this works as well. So if I click on this, you'll see that we get a pretty big image here. And what I did was I just went ahead and did save image as, and then on my desktop I have one called VTT map. So we'll just replace it, no biggie there. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and go into our map utility, our Map Align utility here. And the first thing you want to do is basically decide what is the output size of pixels. How big are, pixel-wise, are my squares, my grid. And 50, you could do 600 if you really want giant ones, or very, very detailed maps or whatever. But 50, I think, is kind of a standard. So once we've chosen that, we can go ahead and choose our map. We can just come down here, look at VTT map, and it'll pull it up in here. Now, the first thing we want to do is actually kind of zoom in here. And it's good to use these scroll bars instead of trying to use the mouse when doing this part, because the first thing it wants you to do is find one square or find out where you want the equivalent of a square. Now we're going to note right here we have the input tile and the output scaling. The input tile is the pixels that we want to watch, and as we draw our cube on here, we'll actually see that. So we'll see how close it is to a 50 by 50. It's not going to be very close at all. So what we want to try and do is maybe get as close to an actual square as possible. We have 30 by 30. And when we let go, you'll see that this box actually is pretty lined up, but very quickly it gets out of hand. Like over here, we're actually seeing it jump pretty far. So what we want to do is we want to start moving this map. And what this will do is if we have the tile widths here to add to it and subtract to it, we have our tile heights for the vertical. And generally I use just the 1/8 and 1/6. But what this will do is it will actually change the map. So if we click on it, you'll see the grid jumps. And wow, that actually pretty much jumped right where we need it. You can also do the same thing with this and just keep clicking it until you see that it's about where you want. Now the first thing we're going to do is work on just the horizontal, the spacing here. We're not going to worry about these spaces not lining up just yet. So here we can see we're just a tiny bit off. If we really want to be nitpicky, we can just nudge that guy till it looks like our lines are closer to the center, or maybe even bump it a bit more and then subtract just a tiny bit until it looks about right. Let's just see. So that looks pretty good to me as far as they go. But you'll notice as we scroll over further, it starts getting off again. So here you can actually see it's off by quite a bit. So let's go ahead and try the 1/16 one. That wasn't too bad, and let's go ahead and just add the 1/8, and maybe that was too much, so let's do 2 of the 1/16, and there we go. That actually looks really good right there. Keep going, and we might actually have our horizontal pretty good. Now you can be really finicky and get this absolutely perfect if that's what you want, but my biggest goal is just to make it so it's not painfully obvious that they're wrong. So now we're going to work on the vertical. So we come over to the height one, and it's just a tiny bit off, so I'm just going to try and nudge it just a little less, and that looks pretty accurate right there. However, down here you can see it's not very accurate at all. So if we come down here just where it's starting to get a little bad, let's go ahead and just nudge it, and now let's make it just a tiny bit bigger. Let's see, we want to make it a little less there, and then maybe just a tiny, whoops, I'm doing the horizontal. I might have to go look at that one again, and then go ahead and just add a couple. So that looks pretty good there. We'll have to see what I did to our horizontal. Here it's getting just a tiny bit off, so maybe just another little nudge, maybe a big one, and then a couple small ones. Sometimes you just have to kind of, do a big nudge out to get one in. That actually, whoops, I zoomed out. So let's keep going down. It's actually, so it looks like our horizontal did get moved off, so I'm going to have to go look at that one. But it looks like our vertical is pretty good now. So let's go look at our horizontal again. So it does look like it's a tiny bit off here, so let me just try and nudge it twice. And let's see, here it's getting a little bad, so what I'm going to do is actually nudge it big and then pull it in twice. And looks like we're pretty accurate again. So let's go check our original area, and as you can see, it still looks pretty good. So now that we have this and we scroll out, we can see it's actually pretty accurate throughout the whole thing. Now that you have your grid all drawn, you can actually use the left mouse button to move things, but it looks like we did pretty darn good there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and save it, and it's going to default to want to save it as something else. And what it does is it usually has the original name of the map. So if we go here, we can see it's VTT map, but then it also gives you this additional information saying that we're doing 50 pixel per square, and the width here is 90 and the height is 106. So we're going to go ahead and save that as that is real quick. And now we're going to jump into our different utilities. So we'll first do Foundry, or not Foundry, Fantasy Grounds. And if we come into, we need to go add this file real quick. Let's go ahead and we will just go to our D drive. go to Fantasy Grounds Unity. We are in our tutorial one, so let's go to campaigns and then tutorial, like I show, and then to images. And we need to grab this image that we just did, which is the map. So let's go to our desktop and scroll all the way to the bottom. And there it is right there. So if we do that, now we can do this. And now if we come to assets, go to images, go to campaign, and there's our image right there. So drag that out. Actually, no, we need to drag it into images, don't we? Let it load. There we go. So let's just go ahead and we'll put this in uncategorized. We'll go and drag that in there, and this will pop it up. So in Fantasy Grounds, I do have to say it's actually easier to draw maps, draw grids on maps than it is with Foundry. But, you know, everyone has, you know, their own positives and negatives about different things. So there are strengths and weaknesses in both of them. So now if we come up here, we go to grid, and I want to click on the little mouse so that I can set the grid by the mouse and not just have to type it in. And then if we just come in here right around where it was, we can see kind of mess that up. Actually, in this case, it might be easier. Let's go ahead and, oh, because I'm doing grid. Hold on, let's tell it to do with mouse. I was wondering why that was acting weird. That is mouse. All right, well, let's, this is being really weird and I'm not sure why. Let's go ahead and just nudge this guy. Is it moving? Yeah, there we go. So that lines that up. Let's go ahead and change it to 50. And it should automatically change that one. So let's just line this up and see how it does. Now that we know specifically it is 50. So if we come here, line that up, and look at that. Now if we zoom out, whoops, it's middle on this one. You'll see that it's actually lined up really well for the whole thing. Whereas if we were to do this with the other map, let me just show you what would have happened. We need to come back into here real quick, grab this guy, and we just want to grab that VTT map one. And I do have to say, with Fantasy Grounds, it is easier to do these custom ones. Even if you don't have the map align tool, the map align tool just makes life a lot easier. So if we bring this guy in, and let's do the same thing, we'll just go ahead and do it that other way because it was being a little weird. So we have 50 by 50 here. Let's go ahead and show the grid. Now why does that say 50 by 50 in it? I don't know. All right. 50 by 50. That's huge. Okay, maybe I don't know as much as I thought I did about the map align tool. I've done this quite a bit. Let's do it from the center. Like about there. How many grids have we got on this thing? Let's delete our grid real quick and start this one over. 50. That is not 50. Why are we seeing... We've got like two... Okay, so now I'm confused. We've got like multiple grids here. Let's just see. Can we get rid of grids? Grid off. Set grid. All right, let's close this one and see if we can do it again. Okay, open it up. And it doesn't have it. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Fantasy Grounds is aiming to prove me wrong. All right, so if we zoom in, oops, middle click, and let's go to grid and turn on the grid. So that says it's, oh, this isn't the one we just did. So we actually have to figure out what this one is. So let's try 25. That's why it's not lining up. So in this case, we have to figure out what it is. So if we just, I'm looking at this corner right here. And it's not way too far off. Maybe, now I feel silly. Let's try 27. So let's see how that lines up. Anyway, this is how you would do it before, because we don't know the actual numbers. We just kind of have to play with it. So you can actually see this one lines up, but this one doesn't. So you basically just get to play with it and play with it, and you might not even get it because the actual map. So you can definitely see that with the tool, it's much easier to get your map lined up just because it gives you those numbers and you're actually modifying the map while you're doing it. Now let's go into, say, our good old other oh, I moved those. Let's only copy those. We'll move them next. So let's go ahead and we will go into Foundry, and we'll look at how to do it there. So with Foundry, we can go into data, we can go into worlds, we can go into our test world, and I think it's in images. Yes. Yes, it is. All right, so we're going to grab both these really quick and bring them into Foundry. Wow, we're 17 minutes. Okay. So now let's pull up Foundry and we'll show. Let's do the harder one first. So let's go ahead and do create scene, and we're gonna go and find our thing. So if we go into worlds, test world, images, and let's go ahead and just do VTT map. And we don't need to set anything else. I mean, we could do the grid already, but we don't know what it is. So let's get the map pulled up first. And we need to activate it. So go ahead and activate it. That'll add it up here. So now we can see we have our map. And this one looks like there's some new updates. So this one, if we go in and look at the same way we were doing it before, what we can do is now load up the scene. And I probably should have moved this over here so we can see better. Click on grid, right? And now we have our ginormous grid up here. So we say, what was it, like 27? And change off of that. It looks like it's even smaller than that for this. So let's cut that maybe to 12. That didn't move. Oh, it has to be 50. Is that what it just said? Grid size, alt up. So we can use the mouse wheel. We can do alt up and down to shrink it. It looks like that's as small as it goes in this case. So yeah, we're even at a tougher point with this one. Now there is, I will say, there is a tool that I've downloaded, or a thing called grid controls, which is really nice. I'll do that in another video. That's outside the scope of this. So let's go ahead, let's reset our changes real quick. We're going to change our scene to be our nicer one. So let's go ahead. We know that it's 50, 90, and 106, right? So using that information, we can say it's 50, right? Click off of there. And the grid offset was that 90 and 106? Is that how you do this? 106 maybe? Oh, 106. I'm probably going to prove that I have no idea what I'm doing. I think this map is actually too small, is what it seems like, which is interesting because we were able to do it. Let's try the 25. And it also seems like for things to happen, you have to commit changes. So let's just try this as is. So let's do 50 again. 90 and 106 maybe. Let's see what that does. Still way too big. So it could be that I didn't actually grab the actual map size. I'm not sure. Let's see. Grid 5-foot distance. Grid opacity. Square grids. So I'm doing a terrible job of showing you how to do these things inside of Foundry. So we have 50 there. If we shrink, oh, actually, I know what I need to do. I need to make the map bigger by Alt and clicking on it. So now you see it's. I'm using the Alt wheel. Actually, I'm using Shift right now. But then I can change the grid size with Alt. So this is actually pretty close. This is telling us what the background scale is, 175, and it's saying what our grid is. I think we do want that to be 150, or just 50, and then there's the 10. Okay, so there's that and that. And then what we need to do is do our offsets, which I was actually doing wrong. This is not the 106. So let's try that. So now with this, you actually have to kind of guesstimate, you know, how far over do I need to go. So this is the X. So let's try 10, move over. Okay, maybe 15, maybe 16. That looks pretty on that direction. And then go down maybe probably -1. Nope, actually +1. So just 1, maybe 2. So now if we come down here, we can see it's still off down here. So we might have to change the background scale, which is the shift up and down. So we kind of go there. And then we need to move it again. So as you can see, it's a hit and miss to get this on right. And I'm fairly new to Foundry, so I might be doing things wrong. So if anyone knows better, let me know. But the other thing, and maybe I will showcase this real quick, is the grid controls, which is a module. So if you download it, you can just go in when you're want to install modules at the very beginning. I talk about that in various videos. Then you go into manage modules and you will find in here something called grid. There it is, grid scale menu. And this will help you actually do it. And once you've done that, you can always go into configure settings afterwards in case there's any settings for it. I don't remember there being any settings for it, but let's just double check. Pings, max create, no. So this is a really nice little tool because then you can actually click on this grid tools and you will see it gives us all these things. This first one lets you configure the grid by drawing on a hexagon. So if we go, let's go back up to our corner where our terrible grid is right now, but this hopefully will fix it. So if we want to align the X position on the grid, we just click on this and then we click on the line for our X position. And you'll see it says, oh, your grid offset is 67. Now if we want to do the Y, then we just find a spot, we click on it there, and now you can see it's lined up there. Now we're still going to run into issues because I changed the size of our actual map. And we can probably go in here and maybe fix that. So if we come in here, where is the map? Grid size 567123, grid units, grid distance. I think we have to come in here. And it looks like the background scale is already 1. So reset those changes. So anyway, you can come in here. Now you can also do it by drawing a 3x3 box, which helps not Fantasy Grounds, sorry, will help it figure out, you know, exactly how this is going to be. So if we come in here and we click on that, then we can come to this spot right about here, and we can draw a 3x3 box. Now that's actually 4. There we go, 3x3. So maybe about there. Grid size must be 50. That was greater, wasn't it? Configure the grid with known XY coordinates. I'm trying to get rid of the original grid. Let's just pretend like we're starting over. Or wait. No, we're in the old one. You guys probably saw that too, didn't you? Doggone it. Alright, so let's grab the new one. Maybe I didn't save changes after doing it, because I could have swore we did do that. Alright, so now we're in here. Let's go and zoom out. It'll probably be a lot easier. So, I guess if anything, what I'm showing you is how hard it can be if you don't have these grids already lined. Let's try this one first and see if it does anything. So there we go. A 3x3 should be 150. And that looks good. Alright, so now let's go check our grid. Is it showing our grid? I don't even see our grid. Let's go in here and make the grid thick so we can see it. And there we go, I think. Say commit, maybe. Is this the one? Configure grid by drawing a square. So right about there. Thought that was 50. Hello, let's try again. Let's switch off. 50. Do you see a grid? I kind of see lines. Let's see if that's actually the grid. Oh, I keep forgetting to save. Maybe that's... There we go. Now we can see a grid. Alright, so now, once again, if we do this, we can simply just say, here is the... This is the horizontal. So just kind of click there. You can see it line that up nicely. Now we just need to work on the vertical. And 102. And that looks pretty good. Now let's see if it maintains it. Look how much nicer it works if you use the right map. Dang. Alright guys, well that was a big fail on my part. But as you can see, it did a really good job. And this grid align tool makes it so much nicer. So definitely go get this for aligning your grid. In other words, you're gonna, be typing in values trying to figure it out. But as you can see, wow, that made it a lot easier. A lot easier. Alright guys, I apologize for the kind of screwing up in both Fantasy Grounds and Foundry. Hopefully you learn from my mistakes. Make sure you're doing it on the right map and not trying to line it. If you do, if when you're lining it up it doesn't line up right, that's when you'll go to the map tool or the map utility. that we were showing, because it makes it so much nicer. So I'm going to go ahead and end. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, even though it was a little bit of, wackiness there. But if you did enjoy, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside that, comment, like, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my Discord and my other channels. Don't forget about the Great Big Game Giveaway. It's going to be, I should probably just say a day on the calendar. Let's see, today's the 16th. Let's do it July 1st. I think that's good. So on July 1st, I'm going to be doing my Great Big Game Giveaway. So be sure to join my Discord. That's the only way you're going to be eligible to win. And that's it. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.